Yo, what is good, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to Knicks Media. This is Richie, and in this video, I want to talk about the rotations to expect for the New York Knicks after the All-Star break, because as we know, Derrick Rose is expected to finally return from injury. We all know that he suffered an ankle injury and he had surgery for the past couple of months. He's recovering from that, and he's expected to be back Friday night against the Miami Heat in the first game after the All-Star break. And we're also expected to have RJ Barrett back, hopefully by Friday. So if we think about it, Derrick Rose and RJ Barrett return to the lineup. Who are the two guys that's going to be out of the lineup? Because we all know that Tom Thibodeau is stubborn with his rotations. He only does 10 people. And who are the two people that are going to be the odd men out? And this is why I want to make this video, because it's going to be really controversial of who's going to be out of the rotation, who's going to be in the rotation. We all know that the New York Knicks are simply just not doing anything good right now. Going into the All-Star break, we have probably one of the worst weeks as a Knicks fan I've ever experienced. Blowing leads to the Trailblazers, losing to the Thunder, losing to the Nets by blowing a 28-point lead. The entire fan base wants Thibodeau gone. Are we going to buy out Kemba Walker? What is going to happen? Because the rotations is going to be the biggest thing I'm going to look out for the rest of the season. Because as we know, we have a lot of young players on this roster that are simply not getting the minutes they deserve because veterans like Alec Burks and Kemba Walker are playing ahead of him, and it drives me crazy. So what is the Knicks' approach going to be for the rest of the season? Are they going to go all in and do exactly what they've been doing all season long to try to get to that play-in tournament? Are they going to really understand, like, hey, maybe the veterans are not working here and we can buy some of their contracts out and then maybe play the young kids? Unfortunately, we did not make any moves at the trade deadline, so that's what's the reason why I don't know what the Knicks are going to do about this. So we have to really talk about this in a video. So before I hop into it, I want to mention, if you guys are new to Knicks Media, make sure you smash that subscribe button. I got a lot of Knicks content coming your way for the rest of the season. And of course, don't forget to like the video if you guys enjoy. I greatly appreciate that. And check me out over on Instagram and Twitter at NYKnicks_media. So now let's get right into the video, guys. So let's break down the rotation recently in the most recent game before the All-Star break. So this is when RJ Barrett is injured, obviously, and Derrick Rose is injured. So we had Kemba Walker, Fournier, Grimes, Randall, and Mitch as the starting five. And coming off the bench, we had IQ, Burks, Reddish, Obi, and Taj Gibson because Nerlens Noel is injured as well. So now going into the All-Star, after the All-Star break, who is going to be subbing in for, or subbing out rather, for Derrick Rose and RJ Barrett? Now this is what I'm unfortunately expecting, and this is my biggest fear of a rotation that I'm about to break down for you guys. Now what if this is the rotation? Because I'd be really upset if we still have Kemba Walker as a starting point guard. We have Fournier, Barrett, Randall, and Mitch as a starting five. And then off the bench, we got D Rose back, but we have IQ with Burks, Obi, and Taj Gibson. Now, if you notice the two people that are not in the rotation anymore, that's Quentin Grimes and Cam Reddish. Now, this is my biggest fear because we obviously need Derrick Rose in the rotation. We obviously need RJ Barrett in the rotation. That is not the issue. But my biggest issue is guys like Kemba Walker and Alec Burks getting minutes over Quentin Grimes and Cam Reddish. Quentin Grimes shouldn't even be out of the starting lineup. He's been playing great basketball ever since he got slid into that starting lineup for RJ Barrett. He filled in for him beautifully. And I'm not saying replace RJ Barrett in the starting lineup. I wish he can replace Evan Fournier in the starting lineup. But Fournier is the only guy out of the veterans that we got I think is unmovable right now, and the only guy that we have to realize like he's going to be on this team for the rest of the season. He's going to be starting, and that's just the reality of the situation. But guys like Kemba Walker, could we buy out his contract? I know it's a 2-year deal. I know that it's not really that realistic, but is Kemba Walker really going to be the starting point guard for the rest of the season? I hope not. And now let me give you guys my ideal rotation where this is what I hope would happen. I don't know if this is what will happen, but this is what I genuinely hope will happen for the rotations after the All-Star break. Derrick Rose starting. Fournier's in the starting rotation simply because I know that's going to happen. It's just the only way. There's no way Fournier gets out of the rotation. It's just not happening. RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. That's the starting five. And then off the bench, we got IQ, Cam Reddish, Grimes, Obi, and Jericho Sims. Now, this is that bench is fun. Are you kidding me? Look at that bench. IQ, Grimes, Reddish, Obi, and Jericho Sims. Now, the odd man out in this rotation is obviously Deuce McBride. I really wish that we can squeeze him in. The only way you can squeeze Deuce McBride in the rotation is if you do get rid of Fournier, and then you slide in Grimes in that starting lineup with D Rose, with Barrett, and Randall, and Mitch, and that's the starting five with Grimes. And then off the bench, it would be IQ, it would be Deuce, it would be Reddish, and it would be Obi and Jericho. Like, that's my ideal situation, but I know that's unrealistic, unfortunately, because there's no way they're getting rid of Alec Burks out of the rotation. There's no way they're getting rid of Kemba Kemba and Fournier. That's just not happening. You know, Tom Thibodeau is still the head coach. He loves those players. He's going to play them, and that's the unfortunate reality of the situation, which is why I want to make this video, and it really frustrates me about what the Knicks are going to do for the rest of the season. Because are we just going to play the veterans until they just can't go anymore, and we keep losing games and just Alec Burks playing in the clutch time? That just makes no sense. Now, I want to talk about this as well. Like, Cam Reddish is going to be out of the rotation potentially. That just drives me crazy because obviously we're not giving Cam Reddish an opportunity to really thrive here. And we know that that trade happened a couple weeks before the trade deadline. And apparently the front office wanted him, but Tom Thibodeau did not want him. And that's just a really big dysfunctional mess between the New York Knicks front office and the coaching staff. I made a whole video about that report from SNY's Ian Begley breaking down that William Wesley actually went up to James Dolan, the Knicks owner, and expressed his concerns about the head coach of Tom Thibodeau and how they're not aligned. And that's a really big problem. And we all know that that's probably one of the biggest reasons why the Knicks are not being a good basketball team right now, is because if you have dysfunction in the front office combined with the coaching staff and they're not aligned, that's it. Like, you're not going to be a successful franchise if those two guys are not aligned. I really did not expect this to happen at all. You know, this past offseason, I thought that Leon Rose and Wesley and Perry and Tom Thibodeau and all these guys were all aligned, but now we're realizing they're not. And that is really disappointing. So this is what I want to talk about in this video. I want to hear your guys' thoughts about it because we all know as a fan base what we want as a rotation. We want the kids to play. We want Deuce minutes. We want Jericho minutes. We want Grimes. We want Reddish. We want RJ. We want Mitch. We want IQ. We want Obi. And we want Randall and Mitch. Like, that's the ideal situation. But realistically, how do we get Burks out of the rotation? How do we get Kemba out of the rotation? How do we get Fournier out of the rotation? How do we get Taj Gibson? And, you know, it's just, I just don't know what the Knicks are going to do for the rest of the season. I'm not telling them to tank. I'm not saying tank for the best pick. I'm not that type of Knicks fan. I'm never a Knicks fan that roots for the team to lose on purpose for a better draft pick, because I've gone through those years and we've rooted for losses, and it doesn't even help us because the lottery doesn't like the Knicks. We all know that the Knicks, every single time we're in the draft lottery, wherever we're slated at, we go below it. We never go up. That's why I always hated the draft lottery. I always hated the concept of tanking for a better draft pick. There's no guarantee we're getting a better draft pick if we lose. What I want the Knicks to do is go young and try to win with the young players and try to fight for that play-in tournament with the young players, because that's what it's all about. Now, the worst case scenario in my eyes is the Knicks running it back with the current rotation, having Reddish out of the rotation, having Grimes out of the rotation, and playing with the veterans, and they go out there and try to get in the play-in tournament. I feel like that would not make any sense because, you know, we all know that there's a lot of issues with this Knicks roster, and I just don't want them to feel a little flash of a pan of success and think that this is going to be sustainable, because obviously the players on this roster are just not clicking together. Fournier doesn't really mesh well with Kemba and Randall and all those guys in the starting lineup, and Alec Burks is just not playing good basketball in my eyes. I just don't really like his play style right now. I liked him last year. I liked him at times this year, but overall, Alec Burks just drives me crazy, to be honest with you guys. So that's my thoughts about the rotations going after the All-Star break. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I think every single Knicks fan understands what we want, but the reality is, what are we going to see from the Knicks? You know, I don't think the Knicks are going to give us what we want as Knicks fans in terms of the rotation. So the big question is, are they going to take Reddish out of the rotation? Are they going to take Grimes out of the rotation? Like, there's no way they're taking Grimes out of the rotation, simply because I feel like Tom Thibodeau, out of all the young players, he loves Grimes' play style. He loves the way he plays. So if they don't want to take Grimes out of the rotation, then who's going to replace it? Is he going to take Burks out? Is he going to take Kemba out? Like, is he going to take Fournier out? Like, this is a really interesting conversation to have as Knicks fans, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say down below. Who's going to be out of the rotation on Friday? Who's going to be in? Hypothetically speaking, D Rose and RJ Barrett are both healthy. There's going to be players that are not playing anymore, and that's going to be driving a lot of Knicks fans crazy. So let me know your thoughts down below, guys. Like the video if you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in my next one. Let's go Knicks. Peace.